So one of the big changes from last night was legalizing the recreational use of marijuana. And that could change things here in Canada, especially since one of the votes in favor was right next door in Washington State. Duncan McCue was there as the results came in.
On the night of America's presidential election, Jodie Emery, Canada's so-called Princess of Pot, arrives in Seattle for a rather swanky affair. Lawyers, politicians, cops, business types. This is what the yes side looks like for Initiative 502, a statewide vote to legalize recreational use of marijuana. No sign of Cheech and Chong. Not the typical crowd of pot activists back home in BC.
You aren't finding all of these endorsers and sponsors out there saying they want to smoke pot. They're saying that communities are put at risk, tax dollars are wasted, and legalization is the only way to make our communities safer.
And you guys have been watching Russ and his team on pot.tv.
As Emery live streams early results, her husband phones from a US prison. Marc Emery is serving 5 years for selling marijuana seeds from his home base in Vancouver. The irony isn't lost on them.
All right, miss, good luck, and I hope everything goes great for our side tonight.
Yeah, I hope so too. I love you, sweetheart.
Turns out the message was clear. 55% vote yes.
Today, the state of Washington looked at 75 years of a national marijuana prohibition and said, it is time for a new approach.
Allison Holcomb spearheaded the Yes campaign. If she has her way, victory will look, well, boring.
You have marijuana sold in marijuana-only standalone stores where you have to be 21 to go in, very limited signage, tight restrictions on advertising, so a very boring source of marijuana, if you will.
Boring, maybe, but uncharted territory in the United States. The people of Washington and Colorado may want to legalize marijuana, but that runs counter to federal drug policy. Question everyone's asking, what's next?
Here's my farm, as you can tell.
Morocco Kashantocha has grown medical marijuana for years, yet the yes vote has her on cloud 9.
Let this roll. Let this happen. Let the people of the state of Washington actualize their rights. Let us do this. Let us turn our economy around. Let us reappropriate resources more appropriately.
She expects medical cannabis dispensaries like the one she runs will close if and when state-run distributors start selling and taxing locally grown pot.
I note that an awful lot of my growers are enthused about the potential of possibly getting a license and becoming part of the legal recreational marijuana grow setup.
Seattle's city attorney, who wants taxes from marijuana to fund health care and treatment programs, says federal and state officials have 1 year to iron it all out.
I know that they will respect the will of the voters, but what may happen is litigation in federal court, and that would be an appropriate place to sort out whether there's a conflict or not. If the state prevails, Ottawa, set to introduce stiffer marijuana laws, may find itself out of step with U.S. drug policy.
I think that it also does allow us to say, look, don't worry about what's happening south of the border, because they're actually getting it right. It's time for us in Canada to make a decision for Canadians that recognizes that prohibition's a failure.
Others predict BC's illegal pot industry, estimated at $7 billion value per year, will take a serious hit.
If the theory, in my opinion, is correct, there will be a decrease in profits of criminal organizations if, in fact, the black markets are removed from Colorado and in Washington.
Back at the party, Canadian gangs are also top of mind.
If we're allowed to implement Initiative 502 and create a legal market here in the States, that can start to funnel money away from the organizations that are introducing crime and violence into Canadian neighborhoods.
We're legalizing it, regulating it, and taxing it.
Put your arm around her. There you go. There you go. Jodie Emery couldn't get enough.
I hope the impact will be that provinces, and particularly British Columbia, will work towards decriminalization, legalization, any sort of law reform to reduce the penalties and punishment for pot, as we're seeing done here in Washington.
Many in Washington say what got them here was Canada's more liberal attitudes towards pot. Now, Canadian pot activists will point south as they push for even more legal reform. Duncan, McCue, CBC News, Seattle, Washington.
Here's another note on this one. Medical marijuana was on the ballot last night in 2 states. Voters in Massachusetts supported it. They rejected it in Arkansas. 17 states already permit its use.